So now let's discuss the first homeostatic process, which is a process that focuses more on thyroxin. So you must be able to explain this process. Now, what is thyroxin hormone? Now, this hormone, it is definitely produced in the thyroid gland, and we know the thyroid gland is normally stimulated by the thyroxin stimulating hormone from the pituitary gland. You must remember that. So this is stimulated by TSH from the pituitary gland, and therefore when TSH stimulates the thyroid gland, then the thyroid gland will secrete thyroxin hormone. And what does the thyroxin hormone do in the body? Well, this is what it does. Number one, it increases the metabolic rate of the body, or in the body when required. Metabolic rate, we are referring to cellular respiration. So it is very important to understand cellular respiration, because cellular respiration, you must remember that it's the breakdown of glucose in the presence of oxygen to release energy. And this happens inside the cell in the mitochondrion. If you still remember grade 10, mitochondrion, the organelle, is responsible for cellular respiration. So you must keep that in mind when we are talking about the thyroxin. They say it plays a vital role in the functioning of the heart and digestive system. Well, we don't necessarily explain that much when it comes to question papers. We don't necessarily talk about this part. We more so refer to the metabolic rate a lot, but this is just additional information to look at. And now, one other thing that affects your thyroxin is the element iodine. If you still remember, in grade 10 you did vitamins and nutrients and minerals. Basically, when we're looking at minerals, iodine is one of the minerals that are very essential in the production of thyroxin. So it means that you must have enough iodine so that you can have normal levels of thyroxin hormone, and this is found in table salt and sea salt, but they won't ask you that. So now let's have a look at where the thyroid gland is. Here's the thyroid gland here, guys. So this thyroid gland is the one that is secreting your thyroxin hormone. Here it is here, and this is of course stimulated by the TSH hormone. So your TSH will be secreted by the pituitary gland. Here's the pituitary gland here secreting TSH, and the TSH will therefore stimulate the thyroid gland. Then the thyroid gland will therefore release or secrete thyroxin. Now here's how thyroxin operates or works. Now if there is an increase in thyroxin, therefore there will be an increase in metabolic rate. Sorry about that. And if there is a decrease, therefore there will be a decrease in metabolic rate. So we must always try to remember that when we are dealing with this chapter, that thyroxin hormone will definitely be affecting the thyroid, the metabolic rates. Right. So let's move on to the processes now. Basically what happens here, let's say here's your thyroxin hormone. Here's your thyroxin hormone here. And these are the normal levels of thyroxin hormone. Now, what would happen is, let's say you have maybe have had a meal, right? your meal will always have some glucose available. Okay, so now if let's say your body requires energy on a normal basis, what would happen is you would need to process this glucose through what? Cellular respiration. So this glucose must be broken down in the presence of oxygen to do what? To produce energy, right? So the main thing is to produce energy here. Now basically what would happen is, here's your thyroxine that has been secreted by your thyroid gland. If the thyroxine levels increase, right, above normal, this will stimulate the pituitary gland to secrete less TSH, and therefore less TSH will therefore do what? Will stimulate the thyroid gland to not secrete, or it will secrete less thyroxine, and therefore the thyroxine levels will decrease. So let's run that back again. Now these are your normal levels of thyroxine hormone. If your thyroxine hormone is above the normal levels, this will cause the pituitary gland to be stimulated, and the pituitary gland will cause, if we go back to this diagram here, the pituitary gland will be stimulated to do what? To secrete less TSH. And if less TSH is secreted, therefore what does that mean? Therefore it means that the thyroid gland will therefore secrete less thyroxine, and this will cause a decrease. This will cause a decrease in so this is less thyroxine, and if less thyroxine is released, therefore this will cause a decrease in the metabolic rate. So it means that the glucose will be less broken down, and yeah, your metabolic rate will slow down. And in this case, whenever your metabolic rate slows down, we see a weight gain. We see a weight gain because it means that more glucose is stored. More glucose is stored, and more fats. Of course, it will be converted into fats. Fats also stored, more fats and more glucose stored, and therefore this will result in the weight gain of the individual whenever their metabolic rate is less. Now so this question, they will always ask you to comment on the weight of that person. Now let's look at what will happen if the normal or the thyroxine decreases below normal. Now let's have a look at this cycle again. What would happen is your thyroxine levels are going to decrease. Thyroxine levels, when they decrease in your blood, basically it is in your blood, therefore the pituitary gland, which is the control center, will be stimulated to do what? To release more TSH, right? It will release more TSH. Therefore more TSH will stimulate the thyroid gland to release more thyroxine, and the thyroxine levels will increase back to normal. They will increase back to normal. But if it is above normal, therefore it will, or if it is below normal, therefore this person will if it is above normal, this person will lose weight. If you have too much of thyroxine in the body, then this person will lose weight. So pay close attention to that again. But just know that these are the narrow limits. Your body your body tries to keep thyroxine hormone in its normal level, so that your body weight, you do not lose more or you do not gain more. So even when your thyroxine level increases, your pituitary gland and the thyroid gland will try to return it back to normal. And when your uh, thyroid gland, your thyroxine hormone decreases, therefore your pituitary gland will also try to return it back to normal. So if it is now increased, meaning there's more thyroxine. If there is more thyroxine, let's talk about more thyroxine. If there is more thyroxine in your body, it therefore means that the levels of thyroxine will increase and the metabolic rate will also increase. And this increase in the metabolic rate will lead to a weight, it will lead to weight loss. Why? Because more glucose and more glucose and fats are broken down and less is stored. So more glucose and fats are broken down and less of them are stored. So I think we should remember that, so as to be able to answer that question that asks you to comment on the weight loss or on the weight gain of that individual. So that individual here will have a weight loss if their thyroxine is too high, and meaning that more glucose and fats are broken down. And when they're broken down, that means that what does that mean? It means less is stored, less glucose and less fats are stored. And that is how you explain the what's this this is how you explain the role of thyroxine and its homeostatic process. And I've already discussed everything that you see here, the negative feedback. So have a look at it. It's on the DBE book. Have a look at it and try to memorize these steps so that you'll be able to explain and also be able to comment on the person's weight, because thyroxine also affects a person's weight. If there's more thyroxine in the body or in the blood, more thyroxine in the blood means there is an increase in metabolic rate, then this person loses more weight because more glucose and fats are broken down and less of them are stored. But if there is less thyroxine in the blood, therefore there will be a decrease in the metabolic rate, then this person will gain weight because more glucose and more fats are stored and less is broken down. You must remember that less is broken down, less glucose and less fats are broken down. So just try to remember how to explain, and again also be able to explain how the normal levels are maintained. The normal levels of thyroxine hormone are maintained. When it increases, thyroxine level increases, pituitary gland will release less TSH and thus releasing less, causing the thyroid gland to release less thyroxine. Then the thyroxine levels will decrease in the blood and return back to normal. And when thyroxine level decrease, therefore the pituitary gland will release more TSH, right? And then the TSH will stimulate the thyroid gland to do what? To release more thyroxine, and this thyroxine level will increase back to normal.